So hello friends, welcome to the class. Today our topic is internal combustion engine. Before starting with internal combustion engine, we have to know what is an engine. An engine is a device which converts the chemical energy of a fuel. By burning it converts it into the thermal energy. And due to thermal energy, and this thermal energy is converted to the mechanical energy, thus produce mechanical work. So this is what a engine. Now there are two types of engine classified into external and internal combustion engine. What is an external combustion engine? By its name we can understand that external combustion engine is an engine where the combustion occur externally from the engine, outside of the engine. Like in turbine configuration, we can see that all the water comes from the pump and go to boiler and converts to the steam. All the combustion occurs in the boiler. Here the main engine is, we can say it is turbine, but the combustion occur in the boiler, that is the outside of the turbine or outside of the main engine unit, and then it's sent to the turbine for the working. So this is an example of external combustion engine. Now what is internal combustion engine? Internal combustion engine is an engine in which the combustion occur inside of the engine cylinder, like in we can see in the petrol engine in car and diesel, where the combustion occur itself inside the engines. Okay, now what's the advantage of internal combustion engine? It's greater mechanical simplicity, because there is only one unit engine, there is no separate unit requires to combustion of fuel. High power output per unit high power output per unit weight, because of absence of auxiliary unit. This is because the boiler, condenser and feeder pump is not required. Low initial cost, because the material required to produce this engine are low, because boiler, condenser and feed pump doesn't require. Higher brake thermal efficiency, only a small fraction of heat energy of the fuel is dissipated in the cooling system. The engine is constituted of only a one small part, so the heat, basically maximum heat and temperature converts to the mechanical energy. But in boiler configuration, most of the heat, there is more loss than internal combustion engine. These units are compact and require less space. This is true because the boiler, they are not required. Easy starting for cold condition, that's also true. So these are the advantages of the internal combustion engine. Now let's talk about the disadvantages of internal combustion engine. IC engine cannot use solid fuels which are cheaper. That's true, because only liquid and gaseous fuels can use there. We can all understood that why, because we have to spray or kind of burn this fuel at a very fast instant, and in very fast instant only the liquid fuels can burn that quickly, and we can get the efficiency. IC engine has reciprocating parts and hence balancing of them problem, because they are susceptible to mechanical vibration. Yes, we can see there are many pistons which are reciprocating in nature, not rotating in nature, so there are many mechanical problems occurs after a while, so mechanical vibration also can be occur. So these are the disadvantages of internal combustion engine. Now we will go to the what are the Classification of internal combustion engines. Now we can divide the internal combustion engines according to various considerations, like according to thermodynamic cycle. According to thermodynamic cycles, there are three types of internal combustion engine: Otto cycle, diesel cycle, and dual combustion cycle. Otto cycle is a constant volume heat supply cycle which uses in the petrol or gasoline engine. Diesel cycle or constant pressure heat applied cycle is basically used in diesel engine, and dual combustion cycle engine which occurs in many special types of engines. According to fuel use, there are various types of engine like petrol engine, diesel engine, gasoline, gas engine like LPG, CNG. According to cycle operation, there are, what is a cycle operation? Cycle of operation means there are a complete operations occurs inside the engine, and this complete operation occurs repeatedly and produce power, and these complete operations consist of many cycles, in which engines there are two strokes which completes a cycle called two-stroke cycle engine, and in engine that four strokes completed a cycle calls the four-stroke cycle engine. According to method of ignition, there are two types of engine: spark ignition and compression ignition. What is spark ignition? In spark ignition, basically a spark plug uses where the a small amount of fire spark is done inside the engine, by which the ignition of fuel occur. And in compression ignition, no spark or fire is required to ignition of fuel. Due to compression of fuel and gas mixture, because of the heat, the fuel automatic burns and ignites. According to number of cylinders, there are single cylinder engine, multi cylinder engine. In single cylinder engine, there is only one cylinder, and the output of burning of fuel is converted to mechanical energy and connected to crankshaft. In multi cylinder engine, there is multiple cylinders, and every cylinder is connected to a common crankshaft, and this all the energy converted by all the cylinder goes to the same and common crankshaft and gives us greater energy than the single cylinder. Multiple cylinder engines are the examples are V8, V6 engines, inline 4, etc. According to the arrangement of cylinder, there are multiple engines, like horizontal engine, where the cylinder occurs in horizontal plane. In vertical engine, the cylinder is vertical to the horizontal plane. V engine, there are basically two or more than two cylinders which stays in V configuration. Inline engine, basically one or two cylinders that situates one after another and vertical position. And radial engine, basically the piston moves a circle or round positions radially to convert the thermal energy to the mechanical energy. According to method of cooling of the cylinder, there are two types of air cooled and water cooled. In air cooled, basically water cooled not, it says liquid cooled. In air cooled engine, due to air, the heat produced by the ignition cools down the engine and efficiency increases. In water cooled or liquid cooled, the liquid used, and it circulates around the engine and cool down the heat. Now, according to their applications, there are stationary engine which stays stationary, automobile engine, basically it used in automobiles, aero engine which used in aircrafts, aeroplanes, locomotive engines which are used in locos like rails, etc., marine engine which used in cruise ships, etc. Now we will discuss about the various parts and their functions of internal combustion engines. At first, the cylinder. What is the cylinder? Cylinder is the outer case in which all the parts of engine constitutes. It is the outer case. Now what is cylinder head or cylinder cover? Now the top of the cylinder is covered by means of cylinder head. You can see in the image what is cylinder head. The top of the cover of cylinder is called cylinder head, which basically don't let the fuel and the combustion product get out to the cylinder. Now comes the piston. What is the piston? Piston is basically a circular path which reciprocate inside the cylinder, and it is the part which converts the thermal energy to the mechanical energy to the crankshaft and gives this energy to the crankshaft. Now piston ring. What is the piston ring? They are used to maintain a pressure tight seal between piston and cylinder walls, and also transfer heat from piston head to cylinder walls. Now the connecting rod. What is the connecting rod? This is the connecting rod. The connecting rod connects the pistons to the crank pin or crankshaft, and it transmits the energy from reciprocating, and its transmit and work as a energy converter which converts the reciprocating energy to the rotating energy. Now the crank. What is the crank? The crank is the lever between connecting rod and connecting shaft. This lever between the connecting shaft and connecting rod. Now what is crankshaft? Crankshaft is the shaft which is connected to the crank. We can see this round part is crankshaft, which is connected to the drivetrain. Now flywheel. What is flywheel? In this crankshaft, other side, a big weight round wheel is connected, which basically hold the mechanical energy. And stores the mechanical energy. So what is the I make you understand that what is the working of flywheel. Flywheel basically, when the spark plug ignites, the piston goes downward, and by the piston, when the piston goes downward, the energy stores in the flywheels, and this energy stored in the flywheels again releases and rotates the flywheel, and due to rotation of flywheels, again without any extra force automatically the piston moves upward and another sparking happens. Now what is crankcase? This portion is the crankcase. A crankcase is the case where the whole crank assembly situated. This is called the crankcase. Now the all parts covered. Now we'll discuss about some terminologies of cylinders like bore. What is bore? Bore is the internal diameter of the cylinder. This is bore, the internal diameter of the cylinder. Stroke. What is stroke? The linear distance along the cylinder axis between the two limiting position of piston. So what is stroke? Stroke is the linear distance between the most up position of the piston and most down position of the piston, which is called stroke. Stroke is the length between the most up position of the piston and most down position of the piston. Top dead center. What is top dead center? The most top position of the piston at which it goes is called top dead center. Now we can see this is the piston in upward position. It is in top dead position, top dead center position. And what is bottom dead center? The lowest position at which the piston can goes, and this is the piston position of the bottom dead center. Extreme downward position of the piston, it is called the bottom dead center. What is clearance volume? The volume contained in the cylinder above the top of the piston when the piston is the top dead center is called clearance volume. That means when the piston is in extreme bottom dead position, now the volume between the top of the cylinder and the top of the cylinder, top of the piston is called the clearance volume. Now what is the clearance volume? Clearance volume is the volume between the top of the cylinder to the top of the piston when the piston is in bottom dead center position. Now what is compression ratio? It is the ratio of total cylinder volume to clearance volume. Now we will talk about the 4-stroke petrol engine or 4-stroke spark ignition engine. In 4-stroke, nowadays all the engines are 4-stroke engine because its efficiency purposes. There are 4-stroke are suction stroke or intake stroke, compression stroke, working or power or expansion stroke, and exhaust stroke. Now we'll discuss about what happens in each of the strokes. In suction strokes, basically the pistons moves downwards and keep moving downwards. At the time of the piston moving downwards, the inlet port opens, or inlet, there is no ports, inlet valves opens and continuously suck the air fuel mixture. This is the suction or inlet strokes, and gradually the piston moves to the bottom dead center, and when the piston moves to the bottom dead center, all the air fuel mixture already sucks by the cylinder. Now in the compression stroke, inlet and outlet valves remains closed and the piston moves upwards and pressurize the air fuel mixture and keep compressing the air fuel mixtures. This is called the compression stroke. Now what is the power stroke? During the power stroke, the piston we can see in compression stroke already the piston compresses the air fuel mixture, and in power stroke the spark plug works and it sparks, and due to sparking the air fuel mixture, which has already compressed and pressurized in the compression stroke, suddenly ignites and release of pressure occurs and volume increases, and the piston rapidly moves downward. And later the exhaust stroke, and during exhaust stroke the exhaust port open and the product or exhaust of combustion or exhaust get out to the exhaust port, get out from the exhaust port. So all covered. Now we'll see the 4-stroke diesel engine, how it works in 4-stroke diesel engine. Now where I have to say this because that the 4-stroke diesel engine, in diesel engine there is no need of spark plugs. If we compress the diesel engine at a specific amount of pressure, if we compress the air at specific amount of pressure, the heat obtained in this pressurized air, if we then place the diesel to this high compressed and heated air, the diesel automatic ignites. It doesn't require any sparks to operate. So this is the working of diesel engine. Now we can see the 4 strokes. The first stroke is suction stroke, in which the only air moves inside of the cylinder from inlet valve, and the piston continues moving downward, and end of the suction stroke, the piston goes to the bottom dead center and complete air, a very amount of air is sucked by the engine. And in the compression stroke, all the inlet and exhaust valve closes and the piston gradually moves upwards and keep compressing the air, and piston moves upward. In working stroke the fuel injector operates and inject or spray a specific amount of diesels into the compressed air, and due to this compressed pressurized heated air, the diesel suddenly ignites and force the piston to go downwards, and this rotates the crankshaft and chemical energy converts into mechanical energy. Now in exhaust stroke, the product of combustion or exhaust gas moves outside of the exhaust valve when exhaust valve opens. Now these are the working of 4-stroke diesel engine. Now there are also two-stroke cycle engine. What is two-stroke cycle engine? Two-stroke cycle engine means there are two strokes that are required to complete one cycle of engine operations. Here are the operations picture of two-stroke cycle engine. Now let's see what happens in compression. There are the important part is the two-stroke engine doesn't have valves, it has ports, always remember. So these are the port: inlet port and outlet port. Exhaust port: inlet port is downside and exhaust port is in upside. These are the crankcase. Now let's discuss the operation. In compression, basically piston, there are two strokes. In first strokes, basically the piston moves from bottom dead center to top dead center. During the moving, the already entered gas from inlet port compresses to the upward part and piston keep moving upward. And the same time, against the inlet port opens when the piston moves upward and a certain amount of air enters into air fuel mixture enter into the downside position or crankcase position of the engine. And when the piston moves upward and a specific pressure build up in the upside of the piston, spark plug occurs and combustion occurs, ignition occurs, and it moves the piston and it forces the piston downside to go downside. This is the first stroke. During the second stroke, when the piston moves down, it uncovers the exhaust port here, and the output of combustion or ignition or exhaust gas gets out of the cylinder, and the previously entered air fuel mixture which goes to the crankcase enters the cylinder upside of the piston, and against the whole cycle repeats. So this is the two-stroke petrol cycle engine. Now in diesel cycles, same thing occurs, but in place of inlet port there is only air which enters the cylinder, not air fuel mixture, and in place of spark plug there is sprayer or fuel injector. So these are the working of two-stroke and four-stroke petrol and diesel engines. Hope you could understand what I have said. So subscribe my channel for further topics like this and press the bell icon. Again, we'll meet in next video. Bye.